A very good evening to everybody. Thanks for clicking on to the Global Weather Report. It is the 138th edition, and yes, it's slightly more unusual with no live stream this weekend. There won't be one next weekend. Hopefully there will be one the following weekend. Obviously, if you're not already aware, my mum passed away back on Monday, and I'm not going to every video continue to repeat myself, but obviously things are a little bit different at this moment in time. I just want to again say a massive thank you to everybody for their very, very kind wishes, love, support, etc. And obviously I'm maybe struggling a little bit to try and respond to every single comment, whether it be Facebook, Twitter or Facebook. But never mind the fact that I am very grateful for everybody's kind words of support at this difficult time. So anyway, without continuing to ramble on, let's get right into it here. This is the 2-meter temperature anomalies globally for the past 7 days. Some very standout warm anomalies and cold anomalies as well. The real standout for me is the cold anomaly that's showing up over eastern United States and eastern Europe here. Very warm in the west of North America and also over the western side of Europe as well. So it's interesting how we've got a cold east, warm west, both sides of the Atlantic basin. I find that somewhat interesting over the last 7-day period. And you can see here, if we look specifically at Europe, you can see that we've got a very distinct contrast east and west. Heavy snowfall once again across parts of the Balkans and into Turkey. We've seen summer. We're back to winter. We're going to go back to summer once again. This is doing a tremendous amount of damage to crops in this part of the world. I'm no expert by any stretch in terms of agriculture or whatnot, but this is really doing a work, unfortunately, on agriculture in eastern portions of Europe because of these big swings in extremes, upper 20s to even as high as mid 30s in this part of the world to snowfall and well below freezing temperatures. So it's tough conditions in eastern portions of Europe at this moment in time. Equally so, we're seeing heavy snowfall as well as record cold in parts of the eastern United States and also Ontario, Quebec, Labrador and Newfoundland as well. It's been pretty cold, and that extends all the way into the heart of Mexico as well. By the way, 48 Celsius was seen temperatures back a week or so ago, and then the temperatures in some of the mountain areas dropped to minus 14 Celsius as well. So really quite remarkable swings in extremes in recent times. Weather whiplash, the swings of spring, I suppose is a good way of putting it as well. And it just feels a little bit like these more recent springs has seen even greater extremes between cold and warm. We also seen obviously the big diurnal fluctuation with that area of high pressure over the UK in the last couple of weeks. Also, I think this is day 15 where I've not recorded rain here at my station, and many stations are equally the same. There was a couple of drops of rain I noticed there not that long ago, but the skies are now back clear once again, and I reckon we're probably going into the 14th of April without having recorded rain, and that actually would be a day 16, because I think you have to go back to 29th of March, the last time I recorded rain here in the back garden. But anyway, I digress. We did see temperatures start off one morning at minus 3.2. A mere 6 to 8 hours later, that same location, Aboyne, that I'm explaining and talking about, Aboyne, Aberdeenshire, started off at minus 3.2. By afternoon, it was 22.7 Celsius, so a near 26 Celsius swing within a 12-hour period. Quite impressive, has to be said, and something that's more common away from modifying influences of water. So in essence, the continent, for example, gets bigger diurnal fluctuations than we typically would get. But this is the time of the year that you see the big swings. We can get it in October, you can get it in April. That is part and parcel of the weather at this time of the year, especially when you've got a slack westerly flow. You've got a lot of blocking showing up, and that's what happens under the clear skies, light winds, and whatnot. So anyway, this is North America. So the core of below average is actually down across central and eastern Mexico. We've got that extension all the way up through Texas and into eastern Canada. We've got a core of unusually below average conditions for the past 7 days. Temperatures are good 5 to 8 Celsius below average for a 7-day period. That's quite impressive. Focused across Indiana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, into parts of West Virginia and also Kentucky. Also, that is where you've got the core of below average during the past 7 days. Looking at Australia, then you can see that we've got Queensland and Northern Territories below average, but the rest of the continent largely warmer than average. We've got slightly below average across the North Island of New Zealand, and close to average, even slightly above in the far east, south of the South Island, and slightly below average in the northwest of the South Island. Looking at Asia then, and you can see that we've got the core of warmth across Central Asia, so Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan. Really unusually hot conditions for this time of the year. Temperatures well into the mid-30s in this part of the world, and even high elevations well in excess of 1,000 metres above sea level. We're seeing unusually warm days and nights, tropical nights, for example, in parts of Kazakhstan in recent days. But the really standout is the cold anomaly in Eastern Europe versus the warm anomaly over Central Asia. And we've also got the big weather whiplashes across parts of China. Jim Yang on Twitter showing I think it was actually the greatest sandstorm in Chinese history, I believe, over recent days. Multiple stations recording record strong wind gusts and winds blowing off the Gobi Desert, engulfing many towns and cities across much of central and eastern China. As a result, we also seen temperatures go from record warm to unusually cold. We've seen snowstorms as well affect parts of northeastern China, Inner Mongolia to be precise. But really, really wild stuff actually, and also record heat in the parts of the Middle East also. So that's Asia. Let's move across to down into South America then, and you can see very cold compared to average across Uruguay, Paraguay, into central northern Argentina. That region of east central Brazil remains warmer than average. That's been quite persistent in recent weeks here, slightly below average up towards Colombia and Venezuela, as can be seen here, slightly below above average across more southern areas of Chile and Argentina. Moving to Africa then, and you can see how things are looking. This is again over the last 7 days, just not the whole month of April so far. But warmer than average, the Canaries into Morocco, Algeria. We've then got colder than average down into parts of Libya, pretty much all of Libya below average over the last 7 days. And that extends into the sub-Saharan Africa region, the Sahel region, into the equatorial region also. Some big thunderstorms erupting here in recent times. Then there's a bit of a mix and match. It's really across the whole continent. We're seeing areas of warmer versus colder than average. So let's have a quick look at the upcoming. This is the upcoming 5 days according to the GFS ensemble in terms of the temperature anomalies. And we've still got below average across eastern United States. Central Canada up into the Arctic region of Canada is quite cold compared to average here. Warmer than average northwestern Canada, Alaska, and also Quebec, Labrador, and Newfoundland. Firmly warmer than average as seen here by the model. We've also got much of the western and central United States warmer than average. The east remains below average. Middle East, bit of a big flip around actually between what we've seen over the last 7 days versus the upcoming 5 days. It's actually showing the GFS ensemble is showing that the cold air that was drilling in the eastern portions of Europe, that's going to continue to descend south and southeastwards, encompassing northeastern Africa, Egypt, northern portions of Saudi Arabia, moving up into Iraq, Libya, into Lebanon and Syria, We've got colder than average conditions here. Still warmer than average across most of Iran, into Pakistan, and much of India is warmer than average, and most of China, in fact, pretty much all of China, with the exception of that northeast corner, northeast of Beijing, is warmer than average here. A core of warmer than average is now getting shifted into Mongolia here. So as that cold air pushes out of Eastern Europe and into the Middle East, it's also pushing the core of unusual hot air in further eastwards as a consequence of that here. So we're basically shifting the core of cold and the core of warmth eastwards over the next 5 days or so. Then looking at Australia, remaining below average across parts of Queensland. It looks as if we've got the average to slightly below in the South Island of New Zealand, warmer than average across the North Island. Still got slightly below average across Paraguay and Uruguay, much of Brazil warmer than average, with the exceptions of the far south of Brazil into the Porto Alegre region here, and also in the eastern portions of Argentina. Looking then specifically at Europe, and you can see here, just bear with us a second here, and then we'll look at the extremes that have been taking place. Incredible flooding across parts of the Canaries. We'll look at that in a second, but yeah, you can see here that we are starting to introduce something fresher into the UK and Ireland, thanks to more mobility. As explained already in yesterday's video, we're starting to see the Atlantic open back up once again. That's going to push warmer than average out of Western Europe into Central and Eastern Europe, and essentially everything is just getting pushed eastwards here. So essentially what's happening is we're seeing lower pressure now moving to the north of the UK and Ireland. That's meaning we're going to see more Atlantic influence. That's enforcing the warmer than average conditions that we've been so used to this month so far. That's getting forced east and eradicating the cold that's been present over the last week or so in the Eastern Europe. That's getting all forced eastwards and southeastwards here. So the influence of the Atlantic returning to Western Europe means that you're kicking the cold air out of Eastern Europe, and you're also pushing the hot air out of Central Asia eastwards also. So let's see what else I can show. This is an interesting one here by our very own Richard Trott. Thanks to Richard for sending me this along. This is the 500 millibar anomaly, March 1st through the April 10th. So essentially spring so far. We're approaching the middle portion of the season, and we've got this very standout anomalous high pressure over much of the UK, but specifically over the northern UK, with a very deep negative between the Azores and Iberia. Hence why we've got this rainfall deficit across the continent. Very dry compared to average UK, Ireland, into the central region of Europe, including southern Scandinavia and Finland, into western Russia. And we've got wetter than average across central and northern Italy. And look at Iberia. Again, 300+% normal rainfall across parts of Spain and Portugal over the last few weeks here. And that is going to do a dent in the dry deficit that we've been building up for the past few years across Iberia. This is really going to help. And this has been something that I've noticed here in recent times, this kind of northerly block with undercutting jet and low pressure systems into Iberia at this time of the year. This is becoming more of an extreme pattern that I think's become repetitive in recent times. This dry north, wet south kind of scenario here. But this is off Copernicus EU on Twitter, showing the anomaly compared to average in terms of precipitation. And really it reflects very nicely when you look at the 500 millibar anomaly of this graphic here. So a deep negative to the south trapped underneath this block to the north. The question mark is going to be what happens through the second half of April. I think we are going to see a bit more changeability in terms of the overall pattern. I don't think it's going to be quite as persistent as what we've seen, and it'll be interesting to see what happens as we move into the month of May. Summer forecast is going to continue to get, the ideas are going to continue to grow. I'm going to be sharing that with you through the second half of April into May. Summer forecast will be released at the end of May, as per usual. So another reason to stick around and obviously hit that subscribe button. Absolutely free content usually 6 days a week, but obviously circumstances has changed that in recent times. But I'm hoping to get back to some normality once we get through the next week, and also the Christmas. What am I talking about, Mark? The Easter break. Going to take a little bit of a reprieve. I think that is most necessary, and I greatly appreciate everybody's understanding of that. Looking at the weather monitor on Twitter, then, this was the scene in Lanzarote. I certainly do feel for folks that have perhaps taken the first week of the fortnight off for Easter, and this is the conditions that perhaps you are experiencing. So yeah, pretty nasty stuff. Never a great scene by any stretch. This was the scene, by the way, in Yemen. So yeah, that is parts of Yemen as well as the Canary Islands in recent days. This was the scene in Taiwan. Unbelievably fast moving wind and rain hit this region of Taiwan on the 12th of April, so yesterday. Certainly looks as if folk are getting blown off their feet, doesn't it? Nasty, nasty, nasty thunderstorms moving through there. Let's have a quick look and see what else I can show off Weather Monitor. Again, this is another scene from Yemen. Back yesterday. Let's see what else I can show. This was Puerto Plata province in the Dominican Republic. A tweet issued back 12 hours or so ago. So yep, the Caribbean island of Hispaniola getting hit pretty hard by thunderstorm activity. This was the scene in Vietnam, a large forest fire in this region of Vietnam. So yeah, nasty conditions. Our thoughts and prayers are with those affected, as always is the case. This was the scene. Severe weather sweeps through northern China. Not sure if that's a hotel or not, but it certainly looks as if there's been windows blown out and is affecting the interior part of that building. Basically, a powerful cold front has brought extreme weather across northern and northwestern China since April 11th. In Inner Mongolia, this region here, Bayernur, gale force winds knocked down road barriers, and we also seen visibility down to less than 50 meters. Heavy snowfall in the Qinghai province, I think that's how you pronounce it. Also 20.7 millimeters of rainfall in Beijing. Over 200 trees were blown down, damaging vehicles and power lines. That was the cold front moving through, so we had temperatures in the high 20s in the Chinese capital. Then the front moved through, generating some very powerful winds, down in over 200 trees, damaging vehicles and power lines. Social media filled with images of uprooted trees, fallen motorcycles and broken windows. And then hundreds of flights cancelled at the airport in Beijing as well. So yes, very nasty cold front moving through this region of northern China. Looking at our friend Thierry Goussin, based in Vancouver, Canada. Looking at the recent times, we had as much as 50 centimeters of snow moving across the southeast of Europe. I know most of Turkey, as I've already said before, is actually part of Asia. But nevertheless, 50 centimeters of snow falling, probably around 1,000 meters in elevation. So obviously a lot of Turkey is quite elevated. So no real surprise given that it's only mid-April, but we also have seen 2 episodes of 35 plus Celsius temperatures. So big swings. Ankara, 4 centimeters at the 891 meters above sea level on Friday, remarkable for mid-April. And these were the scenes that were seen across many areas of upland northern Turkey. Remarkable heat in the Middle East. The UAE, for example, as much as 46 Celsius was recorded, but the Asian heat wave has been remarkable. 45.5 in Dadu. We've got the Babas Dafas in the United Arab Emirates recording 45.5. India 44. I think we've seen temperatures as high as 46 Celsius in India, as well as the UAE. Oman 43 to 44. Nighttime temperatures, by the way, struggling to get much below 30 Celsius. That is like kind of midsummer level nighttime warmth for there. And even in Russia, 31.7 in Chimal, record high prior to the 25th of April of 32.4 back in 2000, fourth highest in April, and we are only at the 13th of the month. Mongolia, temperatures as high as 26.9 Celsius. So very extreme warmth, and that warmth will continue to push eastwards, all connected with that change over western areas of Europe and particularly the Atlantic change in the overall situation here. This is an interesting one here by Stefano de Battista. The minimum reached on the 12th of April at Concordia is minus 78 Celsius. This is the second lowest recorded in Antarctica during the first half of April. So very, very cold temperatures early on down in Antarctica. And it's going to be interesting to see if this is a harbinger of things to come in terms of the cold that we're seeing so far this autumn down in this part of the world. So like I said, 46.2 in Dafas. It's only 0.2 Celsius from the April national record for the UAE, as high as 44 in Oman. So very, very impressive temperatures, and also a minimum temperature as high as 33.1 Celsius in Oman. That is the highest in Asia for the first half of April. Qatar as high as 43, Russia 30.5 Celsius. So big time extremes here. Remarkably low temperatures, again, back in I think it was the 6th of April, we had temperatures high as 48 Celsius, which was a record for the hemisphere for the time of the year. Then we've seen this big whiplash down to minus 14 Celsius at La Rosilla, only 2 Celsius from the national monthly record for Mexico. So record hot temperatures to record cold temperatures in parts of Mexico in the last couple of weeks. And we continue to pan through to see if there's anything else. Stark contrast to the record cold, we're also talking about record warm temperatures as well. 105 at Furnace Creek and Badwater in Death Valley. 103 in Phoenix, only 2 degrees Fahrenheit from the monthly record. 96 in Las Vegas and 100 to 104 in Palm Springs. Some very warm temperatures, mid-20s in parts of Saskatchewan. This is going back to the 10th of April. You can see here again, big swings in the Balkan region. Temperatures as low as minus 18.6 at an elevation of 1,785 meters above sea level in Greece. That is an April national record, but this station has a very short period of record. So again, temperatures a week or so ago, 35 Celsius. We're seeing a record cold temperature for the month of April. Slovakia down to 19.6 below freezing. Elevation granted at over 2,500 meters above sea level. Romania 18.6 below freezing. Elevation 2,500 meters above sea level. In Bulgaria minus 17.6 Celsius. And this is going to be majorly damaging for crops, especially with the early heat waves back during the March and early April itself. So let me see here what our friend Maximiliano Herrera has been saying over the last couple of days, and then we will round things up there. And we'll also have a quick look at the current temperatures as well. Historic warmth, by the way, this was back on the 9th of April. So we're going back a few days here. Historic warmth of 16.9 Celsius at Nuuk in Western Greenland. Highest April temperature on record. Exceptional warmth in Morocco to Spain, 31 Celsius. Northern Ireland, we've seen it, 21, 22 Celsius. Iceland as high as 21 and 17 Celsius in Greenland. Very, very warm temperatures indeed. And we're seeing temperatures, minimum temperatures, by the way, in Najama, or Najamina, I think it's pronounced. Hottest April temperature recorded in this location, 32.9 for a minimum in Chad. So that is a record hot night for the month of April here. Continue to play through and see if there's anything else that I've not shared already. Just bear with me a second here. Maximiliano saying about the record warm March that we've just seen. Again, I've discussed already the incredible heat that we've been seeing over Central Asia, down into Southeast Asia as well. We've been seeing the extreme cold in the east versus very, very warm temperatures across all of Western Europe, as well as the eastern half of the United States. And then we've seen the big swing between record warmth and record cold. Also here, probably missed something out. I always happen to do so. Yes, I intend to write things down and then I still forget to share certain posts. So I do apologise for that. Let's have a quick look at the current lightning activity across the planet. I know I'm starting to kind of ramble on here and I do apologise for that. A little bit of lightning activity actually showing up over Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. This is quite interesting actually. I didn't realise that. The sun is shining here at the moment and it's a beautiful evening this Sunday night, but we're actually seeing quite a lot of lightning activity over the lower Firth of Clyde and over the Isle of Arran, off the southwest of Kintyre between Torhead and the Mull of Kintyre here. We've got some lightning activity in between. That's only a 12-mile stretch. This is the shortest stretch between Ireland and Scotland in that gap. But yeah, pretty impressive lightning activity there. And then we pan further out, looking across at Europe. Lots of lightning activity, especially extending from central Morocco into central and northern Algeria. That is a real cluster. Then we've also got it over the higher elevations of northeastern Spain. Got lots of activity, lightning activity here to speak about. Zoom back out. We've got a little bit of lightning activity over. It's picking up something over northern portions of Egypt as well as far eastern Turkey. Got a little bit of lightning activity off the eastern side of the United States. Over Hispaniola, we've obviously seen the record rainfall here. Parts of Colombia, Venezuela, right the way down towards the Panama region, we're seeing lightning activity. Also offshore, well out off the west coast of Mexico. Got the usual suspect areas. We've got the parts of the maritime continent talking about the lightning activity here over Indonesia, for example. Nothing really unusual here. And also in the islands north of New Zealand, east of Australia, we've got a lot of lightning activity also down into parts of Western Australia. That's quite a long line, that long cluster of thunderstorm activity and lightning here. Looking at the current temperatures then across the planet, and I promise I will round up after this. So you can see here, this is off Weather Obs. And again, evening time, early morning, we're still talking about temperatures into the low 30s across parts of India. We've got some, obviously the typical hot, humid conditions of Southeast Asia down towards the equatorial region. We've got the temperatures usual, 28, 29 Celsius to start the day, rising to the mid-30s during the afternoon. We've got some pretty hot conditions down into the Middle East, but we've got that cooler, fresher air now starting to move in out of eastern Turkey and down into Syria and Iraq, especially the north of Iraq. We're seeing something slightly fresher moving in. That cooler air will probably continue to drift southeastwards over the next couple of days. So I think I've done long enough. I hope you've stuck around. If you have, well done. And I'll hopefully be back as usual tomorrow with the European Outlook. Stay tuned, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye bye.